When the restaurant doors opened, laughter echoed through the golden lights and crystal chandeliers. To most, it was just another elegant evening. But to her, it was supposed to be a new beginning. They thought it was funny, a cruel setup for their amusement. Yet no one expected that when he walked in, the powerful CEO with a tired smile and kind eyes, everything would change. Lila Hayes adjusted the small bracelet on her wrist, her fingers trembling slightly. She sat in the corner of the luxurious restaurant, her wheelchair neatly positioned by the table. It had been years since she'd gone anywhere fancy. The accident had taken more than her ability to walk. It had stolen her confidence, her independence, her spark. Tonight she had promised herself to take one brave step back into the world. Her best friend Jess had been the one to push her into it. "You've got to live again, Lila," Jess had said. "He's kind, successful, and looking for someone genuine. You'll like him?" But Jess hadn't told her that the setup was a joke, a cruel prank cooked up by her boyfriend and his friends, who wanted to see what would happen if a paralyzed girl showed up for a blind date with a rich man. Lila didn't know that part. She'd spent an hour choosing her dress, a soft blue that matched her eyes, and practicing how to smile without showing nerves. But as minutes stretched into an hour and her date didn't arrive, her heart began to sink. She could feel the stares around her, the sideways glances, the whispers. A couple at a nearby table looked at her with pity, as if she were a tragic scene in a movie. From another table, a group of young people stifled laughter behind their menus. One of them whispered loudly enough for her to hear, "I told you he'd never show up. Poor girl probably thinks she's got a chance." Another chuckled, "She should have stayed home." Their words burned like acid, but Lila kept her composure. She lifted her chin, pretending not to hear. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass of water as she whispered to herself, "Don't cry, not here." She was about to ask for the check when the door opened again. The room shifted. Conversations paused. A tall man in a charcoal suit walked in, his presence commanding without effort. His name was Ethan Reed, the CEO of Reed Technologies, known for his sharp business instincts and calm authority. His friends had talked him into this blind date, saying he needed to move on after losing his wife years ago. He didn't expect much, certainly not what he found waiting in the corner. When his eyes fell on Lila, something in him softened. She wasn't what he had imagined, but there was something about her, a quiet dignity that drew him in. Her eyes carried stories, her smile a fragile kind of courage. He walked straight toward her table. "Lila?" His voice was warm, deep, with a note of uncertainty. She looked up, startled. "Yes," she said softly. "You must be Ethan." Behind them, the table of pranksters exchanged shocked glances. This wasn't how the joke was supposed to go. He was actually talking to her. Lila tried to gather her things quickly, embarrassment flooding her cheeks. "I think there's been some sort of mistake," she stammered. "You don't have to." But before she could finish, Ethan gently placed his hand over hers. "No mistake," he said, his tone steady. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The laughter from the other table faltered. Lila froze, meeting his eyes. Eyes that didn't pity her, but saw her. He pulled out a chair and sat down, as if nothing about this situation was unusual. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long," he said with a small smile. Her lips trembled into the faintest smile. "A little," she admitted. "But I'm glad you're here now." They began to talk, hesitantly at first, then with a surprising ease. She told him about her art, about how she used to paint before the accident. He told her about his daughter Sophie, who was 6 and obsessed with stars. With every passing minute, Lila forgot about the eyes watching them, the whispers, the cruel laughter that had brought her there. She felt human again. When she mentioned the accident, her voice broke slightly. "People see the chair before they see me," she confessed. "Sometimes I feel like I disappeared the day I stopped walking." Ethan's gaze softened. "Then they've been looking wrong," he said quietly. "Because I see you." Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the shock of being understood. For the first time in years, she didn't feel broken. Behind them, the pranksters sat in silence, their smug grins erased. Ethan looked over his shoulder, meeting their eyes briefly. His expression turned cold. "Something funny?" he asked calmly. No one dared to answer. When the dinner ended, Ethan stood and said, "Come on, let's get out of here." He took her hand again, steady, certain, and as he guided her out, the room went quiet. The people who had mocked her lowered their eyes. Under the soft glow of the streetlights, Lila looked up at him. "You didn't have to do this," she whispered. "I wanted to," he said simply. "You deserve better than the world's cruelty." And for the first time since the accident, Lila felt warmth spreading through her chest. Not pity, not sympathy, but the spark of something real. It all began the night they tried to humiliate her. And instead, she met the man who would change her life forever. When he took her hand that night, everything inside her changed. The world that had mocked her, pitied her, tried to break her, suddenly felt small compared to the warmth in his touch. What began as a cruel prank had become something no one expected, the start of a story that would heal two broken hearts. But neither of them knew then just how much they would end up meaning to each other, or how the world would test them again. It had been a week since the night at the restaurant, and Lila still replayed it in her mind. The way Ethan had defended her, the calm strength in his voice, the kindness in his eyes, it all felt unreal. People weren't usually kind to her anymore. They were careful, polite, or distant. But Ethan had been present, real. That morning, as she painted by her window, her phone buzzed. It was a message from him. "I have something to show you today. If you're free, I'll send a car at 2. Lila's heart raced. She tried to tell herself it wasn't a date. Maybe it was just a gesture, a polite follow-up. But deep down, she felt something more, something she hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Hope. At exactly 2, a sleek black car pulled up outside her small apartment. The driver greeted her kindly and helped her with her wheelchair. When they arrived, she found herself in front of a tall glass building with Reed Foundation written in silver letters. Ethan was waiting for her inside, dressed casually this time, with his sleeves rolled up and a smile that made her forget how to breathe. "Welcome," he said, his voice carrying that effortless warmth she was starting to crave. "What is this place?" she asked, wheeling in slowly, her eyes wide. "This," he said, gesturing around the bright, colorful space, "is where second chances begin. The foundation funds artists with disabilities, painters, writers, musicians, anyone who still has something beautiful left to share with the world." Lila looked around. Canvases lined the walls, each filled with life and color. A young woman painted with her mouth, another sculpted with one arm. The room was alive with laughter, not pity. "I didn't know something like this existed," she whispered. "That's because we don't advertise it," Ethan said softly. "We wait for people who truly deserve it to find us." He turned to her, eyes shining. "Like you." Her throat tightened. "Me?" He smiled. "I saw your sketches online, Lila. They're extraordinary. You have something that can touch people's hearts. You just need space to create again." She blinked hard, trying not to cry. For years she had hidden her drawings, afraid no one would take her seriously anymore. Now someone was not only seeing her talent, but believing in it. Ethan introduced her to the team, then showed her to a sunlit corner where a new easel waited. "This is yours," he said, "whenever you want it." That day, for the first time since her accident, she painted without fear. Her brush moved freely, colors blending into emotion. When she finished, she turned to find Ethan watching quietly, his daughter Sophie standing beside him, holding a flower. "Daddy says you're an artist," Sophie said shyly. "Can you paint me someday?" Lila smiled, her heart melting. "Of course, sweetheart." As the weeks passed, Lila found herself returning often, to paint, to laugh, to talk. She and Ethan shared coffee and stories. He told her about Sophie's bedtime questions and the ache of raising a daughter alone. She told him about the loneliness that came after the accident, how even her closest friends had slowly drifted away. With him, she didn't have to hide the pain. But when the media found out about their connection, the peace shattered. Headlines spread like wildfire. CEO falls for paralyzed girl, pity or passion. Paparazzi waited outside her building, turning her story into a spectacle. The cruel words reopened wounds she thought had healed. She stopped going to the foundation. She stopped answering Ethan's calls. Days later, he showed up at her door, holding Sophie's hand and a rolled-up canvas. "If you won't come to the world," he said gently, "then we'll bring your world here."